You hear a nurse called Heidi Kalamick giving a presentation about pressure ulcers and nutrition. You now have 90 seconds to look at the questions.
Hi, my name's Heidi Kalamick, and today I'd like to tell you about an interesting pressure ulcer initiative that's taken place right here in this hospital. Now, it's widely recognized that nutrition and hydration play a key role in keeping the skin healthy, and poor nutritional status puts patients at risk of developing pressure ulcers. Assessing nutrition status, including patients' ability to eat and drink, should therefore form part of holistic care in pressure ulcer prevention and management. That's why a team of specialist nurses and dietitians in the hospital has developed a series of evidence-based practical resources. These are designed to help raise the profile of the importance of good nutrition in pressure ulcer prevention and care amongst frontline staff to ensure that the right advice and treatment is given to patients who are at risk. The early identification and treatment of patients who are malnourished or at risk of malnutrition is vital to prevent pressure ulcer development and promote wound healing when pressure ulcers do occur. We'd like to see nutritional assessment and screening using a validated nutritional screening tool being carried out routinely where there's clinical concern, not only on admission to hospital, as happens currently, but also on first contact in the community. For example, on registration at a general practice or on admission to a care home. In hospital, reassessments are generally made weekly. This should be encouraged there, too. The team has developed a series of top tips for use with patients who are assessed as being malnourished or who have a pressure ulcer graded Category 2 or above. Clinical teams are encouraged to share this with patients and those looking after them in the community. The tips contain advice on various things. For example, how to follow a healthy, balanced diet, how to stay hydrated to maintain skin health, and what patients should do if they have a poor appetite or need food that is high in energy and protein because of illness, weight loss, or surgery. The top tips aren't intended to provide tailored dietary advice, and clinical teams should use the nutritional screening process and their professional judgment to decide whether referral to a dietitian is needed. One of my patients, let's call him Joe, provides an example of another issue that the team has investigated. We should remember that pressure ulcers can affect the young as well as the elderly and those with chronic illnesses. Joe was a 19-year-old user of intravenous drugs. He had mental health problems and poor social support. Joe was admitted from the emergency department to a general ward with osteomyelitis because he required surgery and intravenous antibiotic treatment. On admission, Joe had been assessed as independent normal diet, so there'd been no screening. It's often wrongly assumed, actually, that young and mobile patients who can eat independently just aren't going to fit the criteria. After the operation, Joe was initially bedbound in the high dependency unit and developed a Category 3 sacral pressure ulcer, but still, he wasn't referred to the dietitian. It emerged that when he was admitted, his past medical history hadn't been considered a risk factor for poor nutrition, so no weight and height history was recorded, and the opportunity to obtain objective measures and a malnutrition risk score had been missed. The procedures were in place, but staff didn't think they were necessary in Joe's case. Only later was a nutritional assessment using a universal screening tool undertaken. Joe was identified as being at high risk of malnutrition and referred to a dietitian. The referral letter didn't mention his pressure ulcer, however, so the referral was regarded as lower priority, further delaying dietetic input and thereby slowing his recovery. Joe's case was investigated via what's called root cause analysis. The results were shared with clinical staff to draw their attention to the confounding and overlapping factors that can contribute to pressure ulcer development. The analysis pointed to the need to ensure that documentation systems promote consistency and joined-up thinking, for example, by linking pressure ulcer screening to nutritional screening. Its main recommendation, however, was that to get a nutrition care pathway initiated, staff may need to think outside the box and use their professional judgment in a more informed and proactive way. It was partly Joe's case that led to the initiative that I've been telling you about. The best available evidence suggests that nutritional deficiencies are a known risk factor for the development of pressure ulcers and that nutritional screening should be undertaken to assess the risk of malnutrition. The challenge for us is making sure it happens.